Welcome to the Monday, October 11th, Administrative Public Works. My name is Councilmember Braithwaite. We have a quorum. Is there approval for the minutes?
Actually, Mr. Chair, there were quite a few amendments to the minutes, so I would suggest we postpone approving their last meeting's minutes until next week.
You got it. Is there just, we'll go ahead and hold the September 27th minute meetings over, and would you put our next meeting or till council, just so we're clear?
Till our next meeting.
Got it. Do we need a motion for that, or just hold on to them?
We should make a motion to.
Would you like to move?
I will move to hold, what am I moving?
You basically want to hold the September 27th
I'm
minute
going to
meeting.
hold item CM1 until our next meeting of the AM1, sorry. Got it. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. AM1.
So I'll go ahead and move. So is there a motion to hold the September 27th meeting to our next scheduled Public Works meeting?
You said, is there a second?
Yeah, you just
Second, yeah.
Right, it's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Next up, we'll have public comment. Do we have anyone signed up?
There are two people.
All right,
Peyton and Carlos Sutton.
perfect. Ms. Payton, you have 2 minutes. If you just first, last name, and which item you're speaking to, please. Tina Payton going once, Tina Payton going twice. Next up, we have Carlos Sutton. Mr. Sutton, are you on the line, sir? Mr. Sutton going once, Mr. Sutton going twice, and I don't see his name. If we need to, we'll come back and get them. Next, we have our consent agenda. Item A1 is the approval for our staff payroll for September 23rd through September 26th in the dollar amount of $2,861,900.10 for October 12th in the dollar amount of $3,114,805.37.
Yeah, that's the one I'd like to pull off consent.
Yes, sir. So we're going to pull that off. Thank you. Item
Also
A-
like to pull item A11 off consent if we could.
Okay.
And I'd also like to pull off A8 and A10.
Okay, one quick second. Item A8, I already have off. A10. And then, did I hear A11?
Yes, you did hear A11.
Okay, perfect. Thank you all. Item A3 is the approval of change order number 1 agreement with Civil Tech Engineering, Inc. for the Church Street pedestrian bicycle improvements RFQ 2020 in the dollar amount of $93,062.81. Item A4 is the approval of the payment for emergency purchase of a new dispenser enclosures for North Fuel Islands, and that's in the payment of $53,781.06. That is for action. Item A5 is the Resolution 92-R21 authorizing the city manager to enter into a 4-year month renewal lease agreement with studio space at Noise Cultural Arts Center. That is for action as well. Item A6 is Resolution 93-R21 authorizing the city manager to sign the First Amendment to the service agreement with Andy Frayne Services, Inc., and that's regarding the crossing guard contract not to exceed $329,526. Item A7, this is for action, approving the extended hours of alcohol service on October 30th, 2021 through November 6, 2021 for the Levy Premium Food Services one-day Class Z-2 liquor license. That is for action. Item A8 is resolution. Pardon me, that's off. Thank you, sir. Item A9 is Resolution 113R-21, authorizing the settlement of Crumple and City of Evanston. Item A10 has been removed. Item A11 has been removed. And then item A12 is ordinance 107-0-21 authorizing the general obligation general obligation corporate purpose bonds, 1909 raw water intake replacement project, WIFIA-N2015, Illinois. And staff is recommending for the purpose of assurance of $20 million, $386,000. And then the maximum principal amount coming from our general obligation and corporate purpose bonds of the city of Evanston, Cook County. And this is for the finance improvements for the water treatment plant. This is for introduction. Item A13 is ordinance 109-0-21, which is the Civil Service Commission rules. And at the request of Alderman, is this Sufferton, we're asking that this go for action in introduction. And staff recommends the City Council adopt ordinance 109-0-21. It's the amendment of Civil Service Commission rules. The ordinance will allow for the fire department to more expediently hire new firefighters to help the staff positions to reduce overtime costs. And this is very important. So hopefully you've had a chance to read the memo. If there are not any questions, we can do a simple roll call. Oh, pardon me, sir. Councilmember Nusma.
I'll second the consent agenda as read.
Thank you very much. It's been properly moved and seconded. Director, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Nusma,
Aye.
Councilmember Braithwaite,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Okay, the consent agenda passes unanimously. Thank you all. We'll go back and address the other items that were removed. First is item A1, the approval of the City of Evanston payroll bills list. I read that before, so that's just, again, in the dollar amount of $2,861,910. And then the bills list for October 12th in the dollar amount of $3,114,805.37. Councilmember Nusma, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted the record.
Sorry, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded by Councilmember Burns. Alderman Nusma.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will be recusing myself from this vote as my wife's employer is one of the recipients on the bills list.
Okay. Thank you very much. Director, seeing that this has numbers, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Nusma,
Abstain.
Councilmember Braithwaite,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
All right. Motion passes 4 and 1 abstain. The next item is item A2, the approval of the Evanston Cradle to Career annual payment. Staff recommends that our city council authorize our city manager to execute this annual payment of $50,000 to support the ongoing efforts of the Evanston Cradle to Career at 2010 Dewey. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. And I think we have a brief presentation from the group. Are you here for the director? Okay. Do you want to kick it off, or? Yes. Thank you, sir. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Chair Braithwaite and the Administrative and Public Works members of the City of Evanston. Tonight I'm here to introduce Executive Director Ramos and Kimberly Holmes Ross, the Director of Community Relations of the Evanston Cradle of Career. They will provide the committee with the organization's achievements over the last year, and I'm going to turn it over to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that was Kenneth Cherry, one of our directors of Fleetwood Jourdain. Thank you, sir.
All right, so I'm Marika Ramos, the Executive Director for Evanston Cradle to Career, and Kimberly's also going to speak, and Amron is going to move the slide presentation for us. So we're going to try to figure this out. So if someone, do you have the ability to share the screen, Amron?
It's already, your first slide is up, Mark.
Perfect. All right. Oh, it's tiny on my screen. All right, so I'm going to have to figure this out. So hi, everyone. Again, my name is Marika Ramos. Thank you so much for having us here. We're really excited to get to tell you about the work that we've been doing with and for the community over the last year and a half. So that is our cover page. So Amron, go ahead and move to the next page. I'm not going to read all these words. Generally speaking, we are a collective impact organization with 40 plus partners in Evanston that are really all working together on some larger, tougher issues for our families and our communities. And the idea is one organization can't do it on its own. So we are doing it in conjunction with each other. We're tackling things like the academic achievement gap, early literacy, kindergarten readiness, and all those things. And we are doing everything that we can so that by the age of 23, all Evanston young adults have the opportunity for the same level of success, regardless of race, creed, or color. Amron? This is our organizational chart. As I mentioned, we have 40-some partners. And out of those partners, they elect an 11 organization operations team that really serves as our strategic arm and also, helps support the executive director and the staff in moving the work forward. We have a small team of 4 individuals, but the bulk of the work really happens at the action team level. And our action teams are composed of Healthy Start, Strong Start to Kindergarten, Prepared for Adult Life, which really focuses on career pathways, health, safety, and wellness. And this year we did a lot of trauma-informed work at the action team level. And then everything is seen through an anti-racism and equity lens. And then Kimberly, who is our Director of Community Engagement, will speak more fully about our Advocates for Action and our student advocates. Amron? This past year, we focused on the following: the ongoing impact of COVID-19 on the Evanston community, anti-racism and equity, expanding our collaboration with the City of Evanston, making sure we have effective leadership at all stakeholder levels, and engaging the community as leaders. Next slide. So as we all know, it's been a tough 18 months. And one of the things that we really wanted to do in response to the pandemic, and the way we pivoted, is to really address what the community needed from us. So one of the main things we did is we distributed over $180,000 in COVID relief funds. We provided funds for virtual pantries. We did direct payments for undocumented families, provided grants to our nonprofit partners to make sure that they stayed afloat during the pandemic. And so really tried to listen and pay attention to what the community told us they needed and they wanted to be able to move forward during the last 18 months. We also, at the behest of the city, that had a Youth Left Behind a Mask campaign, and Kim will talk about that more, but really it was about getting folks to be compliant around masking to prevent the spread of COVID. We helped lead the Mayor's COVID-19 Nonprofit Leaders Group. Over 100 nonprofit leaders got together at the beginning of the pandemic. We're still continuing to meet. We co-lead the group with Northwestern and the Evanston Community Foundation. And the initial idea was to address emergent needs in the community. And now we continue to work and advocate for the community as a huge nonprofit leaders group. We also helped put together a vaccine equity working group. Over 182 vaccinations went out from the work of that group. We were instrumental in getting together the town halls and the roundtables to provide all of you with the community input around the $43 million funds from ARPA. We are in the process of giving out $70,000 in grants for continuing COVID impact, so not just emergent, but the things that really are going to continue to affect our community as COVID, as we hopefully come out of it. And another way that we've supported the community during COVID is we provided Evanston Own It with a $25,000 grant to address the digital divide, especially for our seniors. Amron? I took this job, for me, it really was about the anti-racism and equity piece. How do we create a society in Evanston that really is more equitable and has our Black and brown under-resourced communities in mind? That's really been something that's been dear to my heart for all the years that I've been working, and I knew that this was something that Evanston Credit to Career was focusing on As such, we hosted 2 annual community building anti-racism equity summits led by our youth. Over 110 youth attended. We provided anti-racism training and affinity groups for the Evanston Executive Directors Roundtable. So 25 community leaders participated in those trainings. One of the things that we're most proud of is our Seeds of Solidarity virtual convening. At the behest of District 65, we actually brought together Black and Brown families to really talk about the perceived challenges that they had, like within the communities, and how to really come together in solidarity. We are also giving out another $100,000 in systems change grants this year for a youth collective organization, a group of organizations, and also for early childhood. And lastly, around anti-racism and equity, as an Asian American woman, I was really proud to be able to speak out against anti-Asian violence and hate during a community vigil that was held earlier in the spring with Commissioner Josina Morita and Representative Jennifer von Buschwitz. As I mentioned, we also really we wanted to deepen our collaboration with the City of Evanston. I mentioned some of these things already, but we co-hosted the ARPA town halls and roundtables, the Vaccine Equity Working Group, our Youth Led Behind the Mask campaign, and with the City of Evanston and District 65 and District 202, we hosted the Back to School, Back to the Future event. We had 500 plus people attend this event. We presented youth delegates to the National League of Cities Summit and also our Youth-Led Equity Summit. We have also, so on an operations level, we elected a new operations team. This is, again, our strategic arm that really focuses on making sure that we are in touch with the community and supporting what the community needs. We elected 4 new really great members, Ina Gutierrez from Evanston Rebuilding Warehouse, Joy Smith, who is the president of Hopeton Community College, Patrick Keenan Devlin, who's the executive director of the Moran Center, and Betty Cones, who was an advocate, is part of our Reba Early Learning Youth Center. We are relaunching our action teams to make sure that we again refocus on community impact. Our Advocates for Action, which you will hear more about, we launched a second cohort, as well as our student advocates. I'm now going to turn it over to Kimberly, who's going to talk very specifically about what we really feel is critical to the work, which is engaging our community as leaders.
All right, good stuff, Marika. Thank you. And good evening, everyone. I am Kimberly Holmes Ross. I am the Director of Community Engagement at Evanston Cradle to Career. I was hired about 4 years ago to build a community leadership team, now known as the Advocates for Action. And in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best, community leadership teams in the country. We're going to talk about engaging the community as leaders. Cameron, we can go to the next slide. And I just want to highlight some of the things that the advocates have been a part of. Most recently, our community coffees. You guys might recognize one of our guests. And I invite you guys to come on this platform if you want to talk about something that's going on in your ward or just in the city. It's a wonderful, wonderful collaboration with Radio La Difference, our community radio station right here in Evanston. I can't read the slides, they're so small. It's student inspired. It was birthed from our student quarantine series that we put on during the pandemic. It broadcast over Facebook Live, as well as worldwide on the radio station. It's a global broadcast. So it's a really, really neat platform. We have addressed topics such as mental health, reviving our youth, back to school during COVID, anti-bullying, anti-racism, and of course, equity. We're going to go to the next slide. We are in our second generation of advocates, Advocates 2.0. They have hit the ground running. They were a part of the Back to School, Back to the Future event along with the city and both school districts. They're planning a Thanksgiving event. They're part of a review, the grants review committee. And we're always just providing platforms and opportunities for these young people to lead. We're going to go to the next slide. I think we're probably best known for our community building grants. We have to date allocated 25 grants. And the goal for those grants are to give individuals the opportunity to have impacts on their communities. We have, I'm sorry, I've lost my place. In 2020 alone, we gave away over $32,000. And again, we just want to give people a chance to connect and engage with their neighbors, respect and celebrate diversity, share skills and knowledge. Just want to quickly talk about two of the grants that come to mind for me are the Minority Golf Project, which was a student who was on the golf team and didn't see minorities on the golf team and wanted to know why. And he wrote and applied for a grant in collaboration with Canal Shores so that minority students could come over and have golf lessons. Well, it was so successful that Canal Shores, and I believe the city of Evanston, has now continued with that program where minority youth can come and have the chance to play golf. So we love that, and we love the tools, we love them all. And the tool sharing library from the Weston Area Block Club, where they have bought tools, including a snowblower, that neighbors can come and use and borrow. They were able to snowblow their seniors' sidewalks, and now they know their neighbors. So it's a lot of community building. So we hope to see this model kind of all over town that the Weston Area Block Club started. All right, we're going to go to our last but not least slide, and that's our student advocates and youth delegates. This team was developed in 2019, and it started with students who were addressing educational equity. But then it evolved. They kind of pivoted with the pandemic and had a COVID response. They hosted the first, I know ever, youth town hall with School Board District 65 and 202 candidates. And recently the youth town hall for the ARPA funds. The youth are really important in our community, and we always try to provide platforms and opportunities for them to amplify their voices. We wanted them to kind of speak to you directly. Between basketball, cheerleading, and football, we had a hard time today at 4:30, but we do have a short video we'd like to play that really kind of speaks to our work and their hopes for the community. So if we could play a little bit of that, Amron, that would be great.
Hi, my name is Christoph Mubiai, and what inspired me to become a youth delegate / student advocate is my strong belief that it's extremely important to give back to the community and become involved in matters concerning it. Now, what my hopes and dreams are for the community is that every individual takes it upon themselves to research issues, whether they be local, state, or federal, and become involved in civic engagement. Now, my future plans are for me to go to NYU this fall and double major in economics and politics. And that's about it.
Hi, my name is Nia Dillard, and this is my farewell to the Cradle to Career Youth Delegate team. What inspired me to want to be a youth delegate is that I watched my father work with Cradle to Career and Advocate for Action for a while, and I was always inspired by the work that he and the other members of the team did. And so when I was presented with the opportunity during the quarantine to be a part of this group, I was very excited and blessed for the opportunity. My hope for the future of the community is that we will continue to have places like this where my peers and those coming under us will be able to gather together and to help move our community forward and talk to the higher ups to let them know exactly what it is that the youth in the community needs. And as for me, what's up next for me is I will be starting my second year at the #1 HBCU Spelman College in August, and I'm very excited to finally be on campus, to meet all of my friends that I've been talking to over the phone for the last year or so, and finally meet my professors, advisors, and mentors. And I'm very excited for this next chapter of my life. Thank you all so much.
I was inspired by a fellow peer of mine by the name of Trey Baker, who was a student at Mundelein High School and is currently an advocate for his community. Our hopes for the community is for it to continue to grow to become a more diverse and unified city. I'm headed off to college to continue my education, play basketball, and possibly join some leadership organizations.
Hello, this is Mina. I would say that the reason I was inspired to become a student advocate was realizing that I have a responsibility as someone who participates in school and educational institutions to help make those settings as equitable as possible. Something that I want to see in the future is all types of learning environments catering to the identities and centering the identities of all students in the classroom. And what's next for me is I will be attending school at Northwestern, so I'll be staying pretty close to where C2C serves.
Hi, my name is Anna Grant Bolton, and I'm a student advocate with Cradle to Career. I first got involved my sophomore year with Student Advocates because I wanted to be engaged in racial equity work, specifically reducing racial disparities in early childhood education. In the future in Evanston, I would love to see the city reimagining its systems through the framework of equity, specifically how can we meet the needs of those most marginalized in the community by investing in life-giving systems like environmental sustainability or housing or early childhood education. And next year, I will be attending Trinity College in Connecticut and majoring in public policy and law. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, my name is Lisa Walker. This year I was a Evanston Youth Delegate. What inspired me to join the Youth Delegates this year was I was doing a lot of work with Cradle to Careers and Girls Play Sports. So when I heard about this opportunity to become a youth delegate for them, I jumped on it and I was so excited to join. My biggest hope for Evanston is that we become more of a unified front. I feel like on the outside, Evanston is pretty picture perfect. But when you look on the inside, we do have deep-rooted issues that need to be taken care of so that we can be a unified front. Next year, I will be attending Hampton University, and I'm so excited to be going there. I'd like to thank all the leaders of Cradle to Careers for giving me this opportunity to become a delegate. It was a great program to be a part of, and I'm
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you all very much for your presentation. I don't see any lights, so I will speak for the committee with everyone's understanding that I'm so thankful for the work, the commitment of all the public servants, organizational leaders, and our pastors who support the efforts of Cradle to Career. I want to thank you, Mary Carr, for your leadership in stepping in. I also want to thank and acknowledge Kimberly Holmes for all the wonderful work that you do in the community. It's extremely moving to see, particularly the work with the young people, whereas so much of Cradle Careers work is systematic change. You deliver a really great product on behalf of the organization. So with that, is there a motion to approve item A2? Oh, it's been moved and seconded, so do you want to go ahead and call the roll, Director?
Councilmember Nusma?
Aye.
Councilmember Braithwaite?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Aye.
It passes unanimous. Thank you very much, and we'll see you at City Council. The next item is item A8, and we have a presentation from Director Stonebeck, and I understand we also have two speakers on the item as well.
Good evening, Chair and members of the committee. Dave Stonebeck, Public Works Director. If these slides look familiar, it's because I used the same slides at a presentation at the last City Council meeting when I was talking about the water and sewer update. But tonight we have three items on the agenda that deal with funding related to replacement of the 1909 water intake pipe. That's items A8, which authorizes the city manager to negotiate and enter into an agreement to accept the Water Infrastructure Finance Innovation Act, or WIFIA, funding A10, which is to accept funding from the state of Illinois under revolving loan fund, and then A12, which is authorizing the borrowing of the money from WIFIA after the agreement is approved. So the original pipe was installed in 1909. It extends out into the lake approximately 1.25 miles. The first length of the existing pipe, the first half of it is actually 36-inch in diameter, and the final half is 42-inch. And that is because in 1909, when they constructed it, there was already a 30-inch pipeline, that intake pipeline that existed. And so the 36-inch pipeline went out the same distance. They hooked both pipelines up together and then extended it out as a 42. Shortly after that, within 10 years, they had to abandon the original intake pipe that was 30-inch. And so now it's only the 42 that flows into a 36-inch pipe. In 1978, the engineers did a report on this particular intake, and they found that the C factor, or the roughness, it's a measure of the roughness of the interior of the pipe, which you want to be smooth. It should be up around 120, and it's down to 80 in 1978. So we lost about a third of the capacity through that pipeline at that time. More recently, we did a test on it in August of this year, and we're only able to pull 5 million gallons of water, 5 million gallon a day rate through that intake pipe the way it exists right now. And the existing intake pipe does not have a heating system on it, which we would put in on a new pipe, which would help stop the fragile ice blocking up our intake. And we don't have any chemical feed lines on it either. We use the chemical feed lines to feed chlorine at the end of the intake so that the quagga mussels that are proliferated through the lake right now, they've replaced the zebra mussels, don't grow inside that intake pipe. So that's some of the improvements that we're looking for on the pipe that we're putting in right now. This shows the funding for this project. The engineering design is basically complete. We were successful in obtaining the multi-phase permitting that you need from this. You need it from the Army Corps of Engineers, Department of Natural Resources, and the EPA. So we have those permits in hand now. That's part of why the design cost is so high. There's so much coordination needed to obtain these permits. It's a project that we started the preliminary design in 2019 at almost a $600,000 award. And then in 2020, there was a $152,000 change order on that. And the biggest cost of that was to provide geotechnical information on the lake bottom. So during the preliminary design, the cost estimate was very questionable because we weren't sure whether they were going to excavate in sand or in clay. We did the geotech work and we found it to be clay, which was a big cost savings. So you don't have as much spoil removal in that manner. The sides of the wall of the trench stay up better under that situation. The design at $781,000 compared to the estimated construction cost of $35 million is only 2.2%. The construction engineering, which we have not awarded yet, I don't believe, at $1.5 million, is 4.3% of the estimated construction cost. So total, the engineering on this project is 6.5% of the estimated construction cost, which is the right range for projects of this magnitude. If this was a $3 million job or a $5 million job, you might expect engineering design and observation during construction to be more in the range to 10 to 15%. But realizing that the magnitude of this project to be around 6.5% is the appropriate level as engineers look at this. The WIFIA, well, I'll start with the State Revolving Loan Fund. These are the types of funds that we have frequently got at the water plant, not only through our long-range sewer project, but also for other projects at the water plant and sometimes on sewer projects as well. The new item that we're looking at now is the WIFIA funding, and Well, I'm sorry, the state revolving loan fund is at 1.11%. The WIFIA funding is estimated to be around 2%. They don't lock into the guaranteed interest rate until you sign the agreement. It's kind of like the day of type of thing that that they write that in. But right now, it's around 2%. The benefit of the WIFIA funding is that we actually get 30 years of debt service rather than 20 years. And we don't have to start paying debt service until 2 years after the project is complete, which is a benefit for the city, because if we complete this project in 23, we won't start charging our wholesale water customers until 25. And so not having the debt service start until 25 when we start getting the income from our wholesale water customers is a big benefit. Last meeting, I put this slide up here. This is an example of how these loan funds and these low interest loans work to our benefit. So just recently, we completed the 5 million gallon clear well at the water plant. It was a $20 million project. And we added that cost, that new asset, to the rate base of our wholesale water customers. And we can specifically see what increase that has to our wholesale water customers under our return on investment calculation. So when we look at our wholesale water customers, the extra cost that they're going to be paying Evanston as they purchase water in 2022 from Evanston is $1.8 million. Because we borrowed this money at about 1.25%, our debt service is $1.1 million. So our wholesale water customers are paying the entire price of this debt obligation. There is no cost increase going to the Evanston retail customers by completing this $20 million project. It will be the same results when we borrow money at this low interest rate for the intake project. So this is a real benefit to being a wholesale supplier, is that projects that are completed at the water plant, and the water plant is used by all the customers of the water plant, they bear the cost. We're charging 9.5% return on investment rate to our wholesale customers, and we're borrowing the money at 1.2% or 2.0%. There's a lot of return on investment money to be made there for the city of Evanston. And so, again, that's just an example where our wholesale water customers are completely paying the debt service of the intake. For our wholesale water customers, this asset stays on the rate base for the life of the intake, or for the clear well, which is estimated at 100 years. So even though our debt service is going to retire in 20 years, they're going to keep paying approximately $1.8 million a year because Evanston took the risk of constructing this project, managing the project, and getting it complete. So that's what your return on investment is all about, us bearing the risk and then them paying for it over the life of the asset, not just during the life of the debt service. So with that, I'll try to answer any questions that come up.
Thank you very much, Director, for your explanation. And just before we open it up for questions, so a couple of years ago when we went into the selling water, like we understood, long-term that we were going to have to improve our assets to be able to support the critical needs of our water department. And so we will continue to see items like this before us, and I assume we'll learn more in terms of our, things that will have to be done long-term during the budget season. But I do thank you very much, Director, for taking the time to go through the details of this, because it's really important that we understand, as a council, all the inner workings of what it costs to deliver water. So I have two speakers. We do have two folks for public comments, so if it's all right, Councilmember Newsom Kelly, can we just hear the comments and then we'll address your questions and we'll take the vote. Thank you very much. I believe we have Tina Payton and Carlos Sutton. Are you all speaking on the same issue?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for joining us. You have 2 minutes.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I wanted to, if I'm hearing the director correctly, that this will not come back on the current Evanston residents that pay water and sewer bills, because even though many years we have talked about lowering the water and sewer charge, the bill keeps going up every time I go to pay my bill. And with this project of this magnitude, seems like if this is going to affect the community somehow, that we should have some kind of meeting to discuss this large sum of money. And as far as replacing the pipes at the homeowners, residents, maybe somehow we could use some of this money to do that, because this is all connected. And it seems that when you are negotiating new contracts and putting the new pumping station and so forth, that some of this money should have been covered by this. So who decided that this was the time to do this project? And will ARPA money be used for this? I'm not sure that we're getting a clear picture of
You have
$41
30
million.
seconds, Ms. Payton.
So thank you, and Black Lives Matter. I hope you can answer the questions.
Thank you. The next speaker we have is Mr. Carlos Sutton. On the same item, sir?
Yes, on this, hang on just a second, start my video. Same item.
Thank you.
And, okay. My main question is number one. I'm very concerned about the city indebting us for another 30 or 40 years without experiencing or trying to look at other ways to develop funds. If not from the American Recovery Act, there should be other ways that the citizens are not burdened by this a huge indebtedness. And I wish you would investigate many other ways before you start voting on approving this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Councilmember Nusma, followed by Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been following this project since its earliest discussions at the Utilities Commission several years ago, so I am fully in favor of this moving forward. Just have a couple of questions to clarify. Director Stonebeck, will this new pipeline increase the capacity of our processing plant?
No, not overall. We'll just make sure that we have a redundancy if one intake goes out of service, that we can get the water in from the lake that we need to meet our contractual obligations.
Okay, so there's not a possibility that by installing this new intake, we would be able to unlock some capacity for additional wholesale customers?
No, what is limiting us now is our filter beds, how much water we can pass through the water plant.
Okay. And this is replacing a system that's over a century old. Can we expect to get another 100 years out of this one?
That would be the life cycle that when we make it an asset, we will put in as a 99-year life cycle.
Okay. That's awesome. Okay. And the engineering costs that $781,000 that are included in the total of 41 some million dollars, does that include preliminary engineering that we've already paid?
Yes, so this is preliminary engineering and design engineering, totals the $781,000.
Okay, so some of that we've already written the checks for.
Yes, in fact, the vast majority of that has already been written. But when we get the loans, the city gets reimbursed those costs.
Right.
And that cost is then incorporated into the loan or the WIFIA bond.
Right. And so then just to clarify some of the comments from the public comment, it's our expectation that this project and these bonds will not impose any additional financial burden on Evanston taxpayers or Evanston water customers.
That is correct. Evanston is only using 15% of the water plant. Our wholesale water customers use the other 5%, if you will. And so when we share these water plant assets with our wholesale water customers, and we have the benefit of the very low interest rates to borrow money compared to the 9.5% return on rate. What I showed with the Clearwell is an example that our retail customers do not have to help pay the burden of the debt service. We have not had a combined water and sewer rate increase since 2015. We've raised the water rate, we lowered the sewer rate, but what the retail customers pay have been the same rate, combined water and sewer, since 2015. At the last meeting, I indicated that we are looking to raise the water rate, lower the sewer rate, but overall it will be a 1.96% rate increase to the Evanston customers. It will be $10.92 annually, I believe, is how it will impact the residents. But the reason we need to raise the water rates is the cost of replacing water mains in Evanston and the lead service lines. So those are not costs that, those infrastructures do not benefit our wholesale water customers, and therefore I can't share that cost of doing that work with our wholesale customers. This money going into the water fund that we do get from projects like this helps to minimize the rate increases that we need from our retail customers.
So this water intake project, just to make it clear, we are fortunate in that we're in the wholesale water business, so we can pass that cost entirely on to other communities.
The debt service cost.
The debt service cost.
Right.
Right.
It's the return on investment.
Right. And in fact, we make money on this.
Yes.
And we can use that money to maybe not make our water rates cheaper, but at least prevent them from increasing further.
Slowly rate increases, yes. And when we're spending close to $4 million a year to replace water mains, and now that we have to replace the lead service pipes as well, we estimate that will be another $1.5 million. So our annual water main replacement cost is now going to be up around $5.5 million. This additional revenue that we receive from our wholesale water customers for assets like this is what is allowing the water fund to pay for a lot of that without having big, large rate increases. Now, the lead service line is estimated to cost $166 million. It's not going to cover all that, and hopefully the Biden infrastructure bill and things like that will provide funding for the vast majority of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions. Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you. So I just want a little bit of clarification. So we've already spent $600,000, correct, on design engineering?
Yeah, probably closer to the $700,000.
We've already spent that. So this amount listed here for design engineering, it says 700. Where is it? Let's see.
Right. It's about $780,000, I believe.
Right. So in fact, we only need, though, we've already, because it looks like when I just tracked back where it said legislative history, that in 2019 in April, we approved a contract for 300, and then we said in 2020 we would allocate another 300 towards design engineering for this. So that has already been, I mean, we've already paid, right, 600,000 toward this.
Correct. On April
22nd.
April 22nd.
Of 2019.
2019, we awarded basically a $600,000 contract. And then on July 13th of 20, council approved a $152,000 change order.
Change order, which is, so this amount here, I mean, we actually need 150,000, is that right, to fulfill that design, project design?
I'm going to say that we've already spent $700,000 of the $780,000 on design.
Okay. Okay, and then is there any?
And I'm sorry, we incorporate that cost into our loan, and then we get, as soon as we do that, we'll get a check for $780,000 that will come back to the water fund, and then we pay interest on that $780,000 at 1.1% over 20 years because we incorporate that cost into the loan.
Okay.
And the loan is paid off by the wholesale.
and the loan's paid
Well,
off.
but I think we have to be, we also rely, we get a lot of money from our water, and some of that gets transferred back into our general fund. I mean, it's not like all the money we get is just paying for, we rely on that income. So I just don't want to, I want to make it clear, we rely on this for our budget, and for our general fund, we transfer money back in. So it's not all just,
Correct. The water fund, I think, transfers close to $3.8 million to the general fund annually. Right now, we're also transferring $1 million above our normal transfer to the insurance fund to help right that ship as well. And the sewer fund transfers $800,000, I think, to the general fund.
so, and is there any, in terms of what you described, increased diameter, correct? And I can't remember all the terminology, but the smoothness and the anti-muscle stuff and all that. Will there be like a cost savings, increased efficiency that'll save on maintenance? Like what is, ultimately, is there, what costs will decrease as a result of I take it, a much more efficient system?
There's not a cost decrease, it's a reliability factor. So in
It's a century-old
in the hot
asset.
summer, if we had to pump out 100 million gallons a day, I'm not 100% sure that we could bring 100 million gallons into the water plant.
No,
right
I
now.
understand that it's needed. I'm not arguing, whether or not it's needed. It seems like, so there's no cost savings in terms of efficiency, maintenance with the new slick pipes.
No, the intakes come into a well that's on the land, and then the pumps pump out of that well. So it's not helping decrease the power of the pumps because they're still drawing out of the same suction well.
Okay, so, all right, so there's no cost savings in terms
The
of efficiency.
benefit will be to have the
reliable.
heater intake system out there so the intake won't freeze over during the winter, and then the ability to feed the chemical out there to prevent the coagulant mussels from infestating the pipe.
Okay, so again, I'm not arguing the need of it, so it's reliability, but no cost savings in terms of any other.
Not operational cost savings, no.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
then I appreciate, the 5-year outlay on this, but it seems like it would be great to have more explicit detail, like since it is a 30-year, we're looking at a 20 and a 30-year. And I know the state one is couched on our water revenue, whereas the federal one, the US EPA, is more like a bond. But still, it would be nice to have a little more detail with regard to assumptions on inflation, going out further than, I think it would be nice for Evanston and citizens to see what we're looking at a further out, if we could. That would be.
And that is available, and right now we're basically the water fund is trying to keep it at a 2%, around the 2% rate increase every 4 years is all we're looking for in water and sewer rate increases as we project it right now. That does not include financing lead service line replacement because we're all hoping that some kind of money comes down either from the state or through the federal government to do that work.
Thank you. All right, seeing no further lights, is there?
Quick one.
Yes.
Director Stonebeck, so can you explain one more time how the offset amount comes from? I've heard two different things. I've heard like we're going to adjust the water rate for our retail customers, our customers, and then I've also heard it's a return on investment, which I see those things a little differently in my world. So can you explain? I think it was 1.8 million. I think you said annually that we're going to get differently than you have before. I just need to nail that down. I want to support it, but.
So when I did the PowerPoint, I showed the impact of when we added the $20 million clear well structure to our rate base to our wholesale water customers. What they collectively pay us, the 4 different wholesale customer, totals $1.8 million. What we have to pay is debt service based on having, I believe the interest rate on that loan was 1.2%. We have to pay $1.1 million a year in debt service. We're bringing in $1.8 million in additional revenue from our wholesale water customers. Of that 1.8 million.
Because of this
1.1
asset, or we would have been bringing that in
Because
either
of the crude oil
way?
asset.
Okay.
Specifically just that asset, that increased their payments to Evanston by that
Okay.
amount.
Okay, thank you.
That was an example of a $20 million project. Will be probably double for a $40 million project.
And is there a formula or that we apply that, or is it just, it's up to us to set it, whatever amount we choose, or is there a formula we use?
We
How is that?
adjust the wholesale water rate to our wholesale customers annually based on the assets that exist at the water plant as of December 31st, 2 years prior.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Just,
Yes.
The question about our contingency, I'm sorry, what is the amount in contingency?
10%.
Of the construction cost?
Right, because I just saw, I mean, a few
Uh,
articles of other towns that were just running into where the costs were just really exceeding projections by a lot, and I'm just want to make sure we don't get into that.
And again, if we don't, we pay the money and get reimbursed. If we don't spend any contingency money, our loan amounts decrease by that. So it's not like we go out and borrow this money. This is setting the maximum amount that we can borrow.
Right, understood.
And so if we don't spend the contingency, we don't borrow
All
that
right, no, I
amount.
just want to make sure we have enough in our contingency.
But the contingency is at 10%, $3.5 million.
Okay.
All right.
And it's that high because right now, there's so much work taking place on the lake. Everybody's trying to rebuild their rock wall revetments. And then there are 2 other intake projects that are being designed right now, and we're hoping to be out there. We should be the first ones out there and hopefully get the best price.
That's great. All right. Thank you all for very, very important questions. I hope that our residents benefit from the dialogue, seeing that, our water operations is critical to our long-term finances. Okay, it's been properly moved in second, item A8. Director, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Nusma?
Aye.
Councilmember Braithwaite?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Aye.
Perfect. And then item A10, which travels along with this, is ordinance 94-021, authorizing the city to borrow funds from the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency for the Public Water Supply Loan Program. That's in the dollar amount of $21,220,073, and that's coming from the IPA. Director, can you, please call the roll?
Councilmember Nusma?
Aye.
Councilmember Braithwaite?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Aye.
Perfect. And then our final item is item A11. It's the ordinance 106-0-21, amending Title 10, Chapter 11, Section 10, limited parking, lakefront parking. And then our staff is making the recommendation that we adopt this ordinance to amend Chapter 1011, Section 10, limiting the parking schedule, execute lakefront parking. This ordinance will make the lakefront pilot program a year-long program with demand-based pricing rate at $3 an hour, April 1st through October 31st, and the commuter rate at 50 cents will be from November through March 31st. All right. And this is for introduction. Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Seeing no lights for discussion, Director, go ahead and call the vote.
Councilmember Nusma?
Aye.
Councilmember Braithwaite?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Aye.
All right. Thank you all very much for an extremely efficient meeting covering some very important items. We don't have any additional items before us, so would someone like to move that we adjourn?
I will move that we adjourn.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. This concludes our Administrative and Public Works meeting. City Council will start bio break meal in 10 minutes at 5:40. All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.